Greetings, greetings, greetings. Welcome to Seek Things Above TV. I'm your host, Lucha Cooney, alongside
Bria Babs. Greetings.
Greetings to y'all. So we are glad that y'all could join us this evening. We're going to dive right into the topic. Shout out to everybody in the chats. We will get back to comments and everything in a moment. But as you know, so there is breaking news. Well, it's not breaking at this point. It's been circulating for a little bit. And that has been that Jonathan and Susie Lamb, of Daystar Television have left. And the reason behind it is that there have been some serious allegations of child SA and other impropriety happening in the Daystar organization. Okay, so with that being said, we're going to start with the video from Jonathan and Susie, and then we're going to come back with some commentary and discuss this a little further. So let's just go ahead and get that started for y'all. Shout out to everybody joining us. Again, thank you so much for being here.
Hey guys, Jonathan and Susie Lamb here. We just wanted to get on here because so many of you have been concerned about how we're doing, and we just wanted to let you know that we no longer work at Daystar. A lot has been going on over the last couple of years that we just couldn't talk about. But we've given over all of our evidence over to multiple reporters, including the police department. Daystar was contacted for a comment by the journalist Friday, November 15th, and then I was subsequently fired the following day, November 16th.
Some scary things happened, being followed, private investigators, intimidation, threats. Even through all of that, things don't stop. So we felt like we had no other option but to reach out to a journalist. When you bring things to the light, things, get better. So that's what we did.
Absolutely. And, I really felt from the Lord that even though a lot of wrong had been done to me, that I was to stand firm in the position that God had called me to and to not walk away. Right now, Susie and I are at an undisclosed location because we simply do not feel safe at our home. Now, please know that not only has Julie Royce been given all of the evidence and is writing a story that will be out soon, multiple national reporters have been given all of the evidence as of this afternoon. They should be reporting some stories that will be out in the news very shortly.
We never dreamed this would be our lives. We begged God for months and months that he would take it any other route. But we have to obey in the end. And if he says, you know what, you're the ones who have to speak, it's the harder road. It would have been easy to just walk away. But if he says, I'm calling you to do this, we have to do this. And it's been a challenge, but he has led us every step of the way, and he has given us so much peace. So I just want to encourage you, even though things will look horrible and it looks like turmoil, God always sees the bigger picture. And as long as we obey him, we stand in the truth, we tell the truth, he will take us through. And I know he will, but we do need and thank you for your prayers, because all that said, it has still been a hard journey. So thank you.
Yeah, it's really been a long road of suffering, and it has not been easy, but we have stayed faithful and true to what God has called us to do.
Look at all the evidence, because a lot is coming out. God has taught us a lot in these last few years, and we've had to do some very difficult things, but there's a reason God told us to have this evidence. So I really encourage you to not just go by emotions or what you hear, but to look at the evidence.
It's been a long road of suffering, but eventually God brings all things to light in his time. And after giving everyone involved much time for repentance, the time has finally come to shine the light of truth on the situation. Ephesians 5, verse 11, to take no part in the worthless deeds of evil and darkness, but instead expose them. And Matthew 10:26 says, for a time is coming when everything that is covered will be revealed, and all that is secret will be made known to all. So that's exactly what we're going to be seeing here in the next week or two as these articles come out. And I pray that God will do his cleansing work in the body of Christ, and that he is honored and glorified through a process of repentance and allowing people who have been silenced to be able to speak up and have their vindication.
And of course, our scripture, which we love, which is Revelation 12, we overcome by the blood of the Lamb.
And the word of their testimony. Amen. That is one of our theme verses for sure. We appreciate your prayers. Thank you so much. We love you all.
All right. So that was the video from Jonathan and Susie Lamb. Yeah, I mean, very heartfelt there as they shared, these difficulties that they've been encountering and all of this, mess that has occurred. I was encouraged by the way they have given it to the Lord. Like that was encouraging to see that it seems to have been something that they've, given to the Lord, and they seem to have some level of peace somehow, even though this is a messy situation. And there's one thing that Jonathan said there, where he said that they have given parties involved ample time for repentance. And now is the time for them to come out with this story. So that's where things are at so far. Berean Babes, your thoughts?
Well, so in this story is involving Jonathan and Susie Child, who experienced some horrible things. And this happened, according to the reports, this was in 2023. So this issue is coming out now publicly. So it's unfortunate that those things happened to their child. But I am wondering as to why Jonathan made all these things public on November 15th, 2024, and then he got fired on November 16th, 2024. So if he was to keep his job, would he have bring these things out? Why did it take this long for him to make these things public? To me, I'm wondering about that, especially that's something that involved his own child. So right now they are in a secret location for their safety, and the person involved, the Daystar, right? Like his mom is in charge. So technically, he is running away from his mom. He is running away from his family. And it's unfortunate that he has to go into hiding. And they say, okay, he's given all this information to reporters, and they've also given this information to the police, which is fine. I welcome all those things. But I'm still wondering, why didn't you present these things to the police in 2023? Why wait to up to this point? So I'm very troubled about their timing.
Yeah, so it wasn't actually 2023, it's actually 2021 when the incident occurred. So this is August in Florida is when this occurred. They spoke about handing this over to the Royce Report. So we know that's Julie Royce's platform here where she does her stuff. And so we're going to actually look at a few portions of that, but it is actually 2021. Now, I
when
think
these things happen?
When the actual incident occurred. So let me actually just go ahead and pull that up so we can check that out. I'll make this bigger for y'all. And I was just immediately like, what are you doing? Screaming at the top of my lungs. And he's like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. He apologized like 50 times, like I caught somebody red-handed. Okay, so, not to go on with the lengthy reading here, but this is how they, basically caught the guy sort of in a very compromised position, not necessarily in the act, but a compromised position that revealed that there had been some issues going on. And it seems like there were some suspicions prior to this. And this was now the smoking gun, so to speak, that outed Pete, who is obviously that's not his real name. They are using that name to defend him since he is, yeah.
So they're using Pete just, it's not a real name, it's a fake name. Because the person who did this has not been charged by the authorities, legally speaking. So even though he did these things, you just can't say that, right? Unless he's legally charged. So now that these people have been fired from their job, and it's a family, Daystar, family business and everything, right? So I'm also like, okay, so the issue happened in 2021, and this happened to your daughter, and you're waiting 4 years to go public. To me, I'm not happy hearing that, because my understanding, Jonathan was supposed to take over from his father. He was going to be he was going to be, the heir apparent, right? He's going to take over from the father, Marcus Lamb, after he died. So, but right now, John, the wife, is in charge. She's the president of Daystar. So I'm sitting over here. I'm like, okay, these things happened in, like 4 years ago when your father was still alive and everything. What did you do about this situation right there and then? If they didn't fire him, would he have come forward? So to me, I'm not happy hearing him bringing these things out now. And let's not forget that this is the Daystar. When Robert Morris did his thing, right? They came out publicly and denounced Robert Morris and took out all his messages on Daystar, rightfully so, because they'll be like, we do not tolerate these things. So now come to find out that they have all these issues also happening within Daystar. So what, are they going to shut down their own network, their own ministry with this cover-up? So there's so much more that needs to be answered with this incident.
Yes. I mean, there's a lot of questions as to why that occurred, why things took so long. I think one of the common things with this seems to be that there is some idea that folks are going to do what is right because they approached their parents about it, and instead of receiving a good response from the parents, what they ended up getting was, protecting this person. So the parents protected that person. And family dynamics are complicated
That is
in a
true.
lot of ways, right? And these things move or look different from family to family. It should not be the case. I 100% agree with you that they should have gone forward and made this known to the authorities immediately. However, we know that family dynamics can be complicated, and especially when you're in a family like this, where it's like an empire. When you have these families that are like empires and they have a business empire or it's a ministry or something like that, it's often, or let me not say often, but it can be the case where you feel that if you go out and reveal what's happening inside, you're going to be the cause of the downfall of everything. And of course, that shouldn't be what stops you from going to authorities. But I'm just trying to get to sort of give some sort of psycho evaluation, a little bit of what may have been, his mindset or even Susie's mindset as to why they didn't immediately go forward. So that's what happens in these kind of structures where there's a family that is kind of like an empire, and people don't talk about the dark things that are happening because they don't want to be the ones that collapse it. And there's a lot of gaslighting that happens in these situations. You get gaslit really bad and it's horrible. But in a lot of cases, these victims get gaslit so bad.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. I grant that. That's absolutely what happened. So, but for me, I'm looking at like, okay, this took place, that was 4 years in 2021, this is 2024. And we are talking about your daughter who is involved in this situation. And yes, fine, you went to your parents, presented this thing, and they didn't believe you in whatever else they did, right? Maybe after 1 year. Then you're bringing it up and they're still doing all those things. So for me, I'm not letting Jonathan off the hook here, being that he's the father. So did he also buy into this? Okay, I need to protect the brand. We need to protect the empire because I'm going to be the one taking over someday. So, but now you're no longer part of the brand. You're no longer part of the empire. Voila. Now let's go to the authorities. Now let's go to the reporters. Now let's blow this whole thing up. So that's the part to me I'm not happy with Jonathan, how he's handled this thing. It could have, like, right there and then, the 4 years when these things happen, like, so be it. This is your child. If you have to lose all these things, like, put your foot down. Like, Dad, this is what I've discovered. I'm standing by my child. Let's do an investigation. Like, do something about it, okay? And yes, you don't want to accuse somebody out of something that didn't happen, right? But according to this testimony, they walked into the room and found this quote-unquote family member in a, like, what are you doing? Like, the child is in there changing to go for swimming. What reason would you have to be in the room with someone else's, with your niece, I don't know, your niece, your relative, whatever the case may be? Either way, it was not good. So he did have a grounds to say something about it right there and then, as opposed to waiting 4 years. So, it's never too late to speak the truth. It's never too late to bring people to account. So I'm glad that he's doing it. But, I refuse just to pretend like, okay, why didn't you do these things the past 4 years? Yeah.
Yeah, so... No, I definitely get it. There's just so many questions in, how it was handled, why it's coming out now. As far as him being the heir and all of that, that's also spoken about in the article here, how that came to be, that it was lost. And it seemed to happen, way before that his position was already removed from him. That opportunity was removed from him. But let's get back to the article briefly. So you have here, it says, so this is just kind of giving a little bit more background, okay? Jonathan and Susie, living and working within the Lamb dynasty, came at an excruciatingly high price. The saga involving the couple's daughter started 8 months before the incident at the beach house. That's when the girl disclosed to Susie she'd been M. Susie said her daughter told her that a man had touched her and used her own hands to indicate penetration with the finger. The girl did not identify her molester other than to mention a couple physical characteristics, Susie said. All right, so you guys, just obviously I'm watching out for trigger words here on YouTube, so bear with us. We want to report the story in its fullness, but you know how it is on the platform. So Susie thought the perpetrator was someone at her daughter's school, but she discovered the school didn't employ any men. As the months went by, both Jonathan and Susie began to suspect Pete. She recalled that after a summer vacation in 2020, Pete told her that her daughter had walked in on him in the bathroom completely naked. So, blaming the child now. They noticed their daughter became terrified to come to Daystar where Pete worked and once ran and hid in the corner when she saw Pete enter a room. They said Pete was often with their children in Daystar's green room while they were filming their show. And once Rebecca and JW, Jonathan's sister and brother-in-law, warned them about Pete. Wow. The couple reportedly told her they saw him putting his hands all over the child and kissing her.
So now this is the second time that I'm
Yeah. So this was when that incident actually occurred, the beach incident was 8 months after they had already began suspecting him.
Okay. So the beach incident happened. Fine.
Right.
And then the second time you are at the studio, then there's something there.
No. So you're that's the beach incident was 8 months after these incidents, these events here.
Okay.
So
in
8
short,
months before.
there are 2 incidents. Am I correct?
So for clarification, there was suspicion 8 months before
Okay.
the beach incident. And
Okay.
what caused that suspicion was that the daughter was exhibiting some fear of this guy, and she had already told her mother some disturbing things, and there was a hesitation even from her to actually say who it was.
Yeah.
But there were just descriptions and this,
Okay.
that, and the third, and the mother was trying to figure out who
Who
it
it
was.
was. Okay.
And then they began to suspect that it was him.
Okay.
And then Rebecca Lamb, so this is the sister, Jonathan's sister here, married to another Jonathan, warned them about that individual and said something is not right because he's, having some improper interactions with the child.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So you guys, I hope you're following this story, right?
Yes.
So now you have an auntie who has noticed something with the niece.
Right.
And the auntie is going to, the auntie actually went and communicate to the brother and to the sister-in-law. But then you have the father and the mother who were already suspicious. You see what I'm saying? So these are already, you have at least 2 different lines of evidence that are pointing fingers to Pete, right, as the suspect. But 4 years passed until 2024, where now all these things is coming out to light. So they did have some grounds there to say something, at least to somebody. Even if they had reported it to the mother, right? You have the daughter saying something. Okay, the auntie saying something, who happens to be the daughter. The father is saying something, okay? And the daughter-in-law is saying something to the grandparents of this child. And all these adults failed this little girl. For 4 years, they failed this little girl. Now the story, fine, is public. The authorities are aware about these things. What could have happened if these things were brought forth to light within these 4 years? You know what I mean? Like, these are children. You need to ask them questions. They might not remember. You know how these things happen, especially these days. So it's very disappointing to me, very disappointing that all these adults were just suspecting this particular person, but it seems like there's nobody who is willing to stand up to this particular person. They haven't disclosed who it is, but I'm concluding it must be one of the family members, because it's just like, okay, if it's somebody from outside, why are you guys taking so long to bring the hammer on this guy? So, yeah. But there's quite more, so let's dig deeper.
Yeah, because we're going to get into now sort of like the second chapter, as it were, as it is here. So once Pete and his wife had the girl and her brother sleep over at their house. After that sleepover, Susie said her daughter went from being the most affectionate, loud, fun child to quiet. Nobody could touch her physically except me. And when my husband would even come close, her body would stiffen up. So now she's even scared of just men in general, including
her
her
own father,
which is terrible.
She was traumatized.
This is terrible. So yet, according to Jonathan and Susie, Marcus and Joni consistently fought to protect Pete and Daystar's image rather than their own granddaughter. So this is where it really, for me, this is the part that really irks me the most, is when we start to get into Marcus and Joni's response to the whole thing. Okay, so the day their daughter disclosed the alleged abuse, Susie said she immediately called Joni, who urged Susie not to go to police, but instead to bring the girl to her. Why? After meeting one-on-one with Joni, the girl stopped talking about what had happened, Susie and Joni said. So the grandmother, look at this. The grandmother is basically telling her, look, listen, honey, I don't want you telling anybody about this, because she's not talking about it anymore, even to her parents after meeting with the grandma.
Yeah.
So then they said, I don't know what happened there, Susie said, but she was like a lockbox. So whatever Joni said to this child made the child be silent. She doesn't remember one thing Jonathan said. She doesn't even remember having that conversation. It's like it never happened. So the child was just messed up after this. Okay, so this is important here. Texas law requires anyone suspecting a child has been abused to report it to authorities. Jonathan and Susie reported their suspicions to police. Here we are. But said they kept it secret from their family. So there was some reporting that happened because their daughter wouldn't talk about it. Police closed the case. Later, it was reopened. So this is another thing, is the way that everything went down. It's hard for you to have hard evidence in these situations if
true.
things take too long to be reported.
Yes.
And that is what happened. Then on August the 3rd, 2021, when Jonathan caught Pete alone in a room with his naked daughter, the couple went to Marcus and Joni hoping they'd do something, but almost immediately the elder Lambs declared Pete innocent, Jonathan and Susie said. So they literally said no. Like, no, the guy is innocent. They defended the abuser in this case. And as I said earlier, what could be the reason beyond trying to preserve this empire that you have created?
Yeah, so it's unfortunate that obviously the grandmother and the grandfather, whatever they say to their grandchild, who knows? But after that, the little girl shut down, right? So imagine, because the girl is looking, okay, mommy and dad, because kids don't know. They just say, okay, I told my mom, but nothing has happened. Had a conversation with the grandmother. Who knows what the grandmother said, right? So moving forward, this little girl ended up shutting down. So now it's like the grandfather is taking a victory up. Oh, no foul, no harm over here. Pete is innocent, right? Let's keep moving. Meantime, Jonathan is still working for Daystar. The wife is still working for Daystar. You're still getting paid from Daystar, and yet this is the same environment that violated your own child. But you guys are getting a paycheck. You see what I'm saying? So it's just like, if these things, there are certain things that you should be willing to lose certain things if you want to stand on something. They took too long. They very much took too long. So much so that even when they reported the case to the authorities, they closed the case. Why would the police close the case? Which means they'll be like, okay, they had no lead. There's nowhere else to go with that story, and they ended up closing the case. So I'm happy that they reopened the case. So hopefully that something is going to come out of this. But Jonathan and Susie, they need to explain as to why they did not go to the authorities. Like, okay, keep it a secret to your family and be like, you know what? We can no longer be with this family. We are quitting our jobs over here. We're going to pursue justice for our daughter. Not waiting 4 years later after you've lost your job. Now let's sink it all down. It's not looking good.
Yeah, I mean, clearly we've, looked at that. There was mishandling from their part. There was some mishandling. Now, I mean, this whole response from Marcus and Joni, though, gets more and more disgusting as you look at it, okay? So listen to this. So Marcus and Joni justified Pete's presence in the girl's room by saying Pete loved her and simply wanted to hang out with her, Susie said. Like, what part of, like, your brain has to be messed up enough to actually start trying to convince people that it was okay for a grown man to be standing in a room where a young child is getting changed and he's standing there for bad. What?
Yeah.
For what?
So, but also, why is Marcus and John protecting this particular person? That's why I'm saying this one must be a family member somehow. Because it seems like they're defending him like, okay, the little girl loves Pete, whatever that relationship is, right? Why didn't they believe their grandchild? Why didn't they believe their own son when he brought this to their attention? What is it about this particular person that they are willing to protect him to this level? Like, it's
the
very
image.
troubling.
It's the image. So it is the image. It is the trying to preserve the dynasty and all of that. So this is the heart of the whole thing, is that these Marcus and Joni exhibited some really disgusting idolatry.
Protect
that is what
the
happened.
brand at all costs.
They displayed disgusting idolatry that led them, rather than to protect their own flesh and blood and an innocent child who is their grandchild, they would rather protect their brand and protect what they have built. The house that they had built, the money and everything. I mean, so Daystar is reportedly, it's hundreds of millions, but it says that at one point Marcus Lamb declared that it was $1 billion. It was worth $1 billion. So we're talking about a great deal of money, and that the type of money that would make people with messed up morality do things that make us all scratch our heads.
And then this is a Christian network.
Supposedly a
What
Christian
are we doing
network.
here?
It is a supposedly Christian network. So the article continues. Let's read a little more. Susie added that when she strongly objected, saying that didn't explain why Pete was in the room with her naked daughter, Joni blamed the couple's daughter, saying she was the one who took her clothes off, now blaming the child. At this, Susie said she began screaming at her mother-in-law, but Joni was adamant and reiterated her claim several times over the next 24 hours. So she just would not hear it. Joni it was like talking to a brick wall at this point. I'll skip down a little bit. At one point, Marcus and Joni gathered Jonathan and Susie with Pete. This is horrible. This is really terrible. At one point, make this bigger. At one point, Marcus and Joni gathered Jonathan and Susie with Pete and his wife in Marcus and Joni's bedroom and insisted they repent to each other and pray, Susie said. Where is this in the scriptures where we are now getting people who have committed crimes worthy of imprisonment, and we're supposed to just sit down, brush aside what they have done, and simply have them repent to you? Like, where is that? Where is that? When we serve a God of justice, God who doesn't play with sin, the very sin, our sin that put Jesus on the cross, that's how heinous sin is, that it took the blood of the perfect Lamb of God, the Savior of the world, Lord Jesus Christ, sinless, fully God, fully man, die on the cross for us. It took that for us to be forgiven of sin. And now you are playing around and brushing sin aside like it's nothing and simply saying, oh, yeah, no, he doesn't need to answer for this. He just needs to repent for it. And let's just sweep this under the rug when we are dealing with a God of justice. This is horrible stuff.
So from this, it looks like Marcus and John did not believe the situation with the child. They did not believe what Jonathan and Susie told them. So they chose to believe Pete and his wife. So notice they say they brought Susie and Jonathan, Pete and his wife to their bedroom, right? So they went to Jonathan's parents' bedroom. So who is this person who is welcome in the house? That it's fine. There's nothing wrong for them to be in their parents' bedroom, right? That's why I'm saying, why would Joni and Marcus go to this length to protect their brand, to protect their empire, not this story to come out, not for Jonathan to report it to the police, to the public, to kill the story, to be able to speak to the child, to the granddaughter, so that she shouldn't, you know what I mean, like she froze since speaking to the grandmother. So I am, they haven't disclosed who the person is. I'm very suspicious. It's got to be one of the family members within this Daystar. That's why they had to do this. Because what other explanation is there? It's so wrong because these people profess to be Christians. And this is your grandchild. Like it's so crazy. You know, like how grandparents spoil, love their grandchildren. These ones were willing to sacrifice their grandchild for fame, status, money, and everything that Daystar brings. Because, it is a very huge network. It's very sad. So Dallas, what's happening in Dallas?
Yeah,
it's
there's
a purge that's happening in Dallas.
It's very sad indeed, and it is you know, this is just a horrible story here, man. It's a horrible story, and especially these are the things that are just bringing a reproach on the name of Christ to the world that is outside viewing it. I mean, of course, this year there's been a lot of scandals that are very unexpected and what have you. Now, there has been talks of people questioning Daystar and, you know, their handling of different things besides the false teaching, which is a huge red flag.
They are quick to handle Robert Morris real quick, real fast.
Yeah, there's things that they're just, you know, not known for handling things well. But to continue with this, and we're going to move along with this because there's some more videos and clips to show, but we're going to, you know, kind of speed this up a little bit. So at one point, Marcus and Joni gathered Jonathan and Susie with Pete and his wife in Marcus and Joni's bedroom and insisted that they repent to each other and pray, Susie said. Then Rebecca and JW, who had been barred from the room, barged in, insisting they be included, Susie added. Rebecca was angry, Susie said, and began praying in tongues like in a war mode. Susie said she was in shock by what was happening. Later in the day, Susie said Rebecca confronted her dad, saying, "Why are you doing this to us? Why aren't you doing what's right?" Susie said Marcus responded, "Because of Pete's wife and their child." That night, when Susie insisted their kids sleep in the room next to them instead of upstairs, Joni confronted her, saying, "Look at what you're doing to this family." So you see, every step of the way, she is basically acting like her own kids are blowing the whole thing out of proportion. That is Joni's response in this thing. The next day, while Jonathan, Susie, Rebecca, JW, Marcus, and Joni were gathered in the kitchen, Joni claimed that God had told this right here. This is, you know, if it was like she was on stage or something, like I would want to throw the biggest tomato or something I could find at her. Okay. This part is horrible. The next day, while Jonathan, Susie, Rebecca, JW, Marcus, and Joni were gathered in the kitchen, Joni claimed that God had told her while she was praying that Pete was innocent.
Blasphemous.
Jonathan and Susie said, at this, Marcus reportedly clapped his hands in joy, and the rest stood dumbfounded. So Marcus Lamb, the late Marcus Lamb, was rejoicing because his wife had now said that she had this revelation that was from the Lord, that this fool, whoever he is, who did these things to this child, is innocent.
Yeah, this is so bad, okay? And then these are the people, they always promote the theology. God told me this, God told me that. So how convenient that all of a sudden she's going to come downstairs and be like, oh, by the way, God told me that Pete is innocent. And then Marcus, okay, celebrating like, oh, voila. Okay, so now let's just move on. Pete is innocent. After all, God has approved this thing. So I'm glad that Jonathan and Susie did not believe that God had told them that Pete was innocent. So hopefully, you know, that this idea of just like, okay, people always want to say like, okay, God told me this, God told me that, right? They always talk about those things. But then when it's just like, no, we know exactly what happened. We know that God did not tell you this. So it's their theology over here didn't work out. Because it's just like, no, we know what happened. So you coming us telling us that God told you this and that, it is absolutely not true.
Absolutely.
These people
nonsense.
sacrificed their grandchild for the empire. What a shame.
What a shame indeed. Daystar responded with a written statement, so I just skipped a little bit forward here. It says, Daystar responded with a written statement which said, in part, there is clearly a misunderstanding of what transpired, and the facts are quite different than what appears to have been reported to you. We simply do not support Jonathan and Susie's false allegations and are saddened by the continued relational incongruity between Jonathan and Susie and the rest of their family. And that doesn't appear to be true because obviously Rebecca is not down with any of this either. Similarly, the Royce Report reached out to Pete, whose lawyer, Mark G. Daniels, sent the letter to the Royce Report. It stated in part, my client unequivocally denies the statements made by Jonathan and Susie Lamb, alleging that he engaged in some form of improper contact with any child. Anyone who knows my client knows that these statements are false, insulting, and demeaning. Yes. So that is the response from Daystar. That is their, public response to it. So obviously they're trying to sweep things under the rug. They're trying to say that they are innocent. They are also saying now that Jonathan and Susie are whatever they're saying is not true. Okay, so they're just blaming again. They're denying that this happened, saying that these people are making things up, and then Pete, whoever he is obviously lawyered up, and the lawyer is defending him. These things, like the frustrating thing, is that with the lack of evidence, it's highly likely that whoever Pete is, and because you have now other family members backing him up, especially if you have the grandmother of the child backing him up, it is very difficult to see an outcome where this guy ends up behind bars. Yes. Or even gets removed from Daystar. It actually is, it's difficult to see. The only reason they would remove him from Daystar at this point because of the outrage. That it would just be like, okay, you know what? We just want to seem like we're doing something. We don't want, we're finally avoiding the appearance of evil, so let's just remove him. That's the only reason they would remove him. But if they had it their way, they would just avoid any kind of legal ramifications, any kind of jail time for Pete, and they would just keep him on if they had it their way.
Yeah. But then if they do that, if they remove that particular person, then the whole world is going to know like, oh, so you are the suspect, you see? And if the story is like, okay, he hasn't done anything, Joni believes him that he didn't do anything wrong, then it'll be like, okay, so why are you removing this person? Because they, legally, everything, they haven't been found liable. If you just fire them unjustly, then they'll be the ones suing Daystar. They'll be the ones getting their payday. That's, that might be something that can actually happen. But yes, even if this story, they were to go to court, you need to have ironclad evidence. Because it's not what he said, she said. Because like in a court, you need to be proving these things beyond a reasonable doubt, okay? So the Pete has already lawyered up. So the lawyer will be asking Jonathan, oh, when did this happen, Jonathan? 4 years ago. Okay, so what did you do? There's so many questions that just on the stand, this issue is just going to fall apart. So hopefully, Pete, if he's for Daystar, he's a Christian, he's going to be convicted and just repent and do what is just. Or Joni is going to come to her senses and stand up for her grandchild. But so far, it's not looking so far. This is what's out in public. It's not looking good. So I'm sure she's even pissed now because I think the whole idea, they wanted to protect the brand, they wanted to protect the empire. So now that Jonathan has come out publicly, and the whole world is talking about Daystar, so now I'm sure his mom is not pleased with Jonathan.
Yeah, and so much more to say because there's just so many parts to this thing. But I'm going to go back to this article just to show you one thing here real quick, and that is, so we have here on August 17th, okay? This is 2021. So back in 2021, Marcus emailed his children. So because we talked a lot about Joni right now, but let's remember this is both of them, okay? August 17th, Marcus emailed his children and their spouses again. This time to express his distress over fractures in our family. He also warned them in no uncertain terms to stop playing judge, jury, or executioner, emphasis in original email, and to trust his leadership or face the consequences. Face the consequences. So what are these consequences? There can only be one leader, Marcus wrote. Either you trust me as God's leader or you don't. Listen to this. Your mother and I built Daystar without you, and we can run it without you. That would break my heart. But there are consequences for actions and attitudes. Don't doubt my resolve. Don't question my determination. And this was the beginning, okay? This email right here was the beginning of, after these things took place, Jonathan losing the position that everybody knew that he was going to have, because it was known to them that he was going to take over whenever Marcus stops doing the ministry. Of course, they didn't expect him to die of COVID during the pandemic. So he, at this point, obviously these threats, and he's telling them, I can run this without you. I can, we don't need you guys, basically. We don't need you guys. And don't play with me. Don't play with me. I'm in charge. I'm the boss. And what I say goes at the end of the day is the general gist of what he is. He implied here to his children. And remember, this email went to their spouses. It went to all of them. This is like, everybody got this, that Marcus is not playing. If you play with him, you're going to lose something. You stand more to lose than he does. And he made that clear to his family. And out of this is where Jonathan lost the position of being the next president of Daystar. That's what happened at this point. We'll look at that a little bit more in the article here. But that is what happened. Is that it was because of that, and because of basically their feeling of these guys making too much noise, that Jonathan lost his position and was downgraded to just a regular dude at some point. And, then as of a month ago or so, fired. Well, the firing happened a month ago. Their program was removed from Daystar some time ago, I believe it was. I believe actually the program was removed like a month or 2 months ago, perhaps. And then now the actual firing occurred recently. The literal, like, okay, this is legit. They're gone. Yeah,
because the wife was let go in July.
Right.
So they had demoted Jonathan just to be a manager. So to me, I'm like, okay, fine, Jonathan, you're coming now. Good for you. But all along, you are holding on to this position that you were going to have. And now, you lost your position. You took too long to fight for your child. And then here you are, I'm sure right now, there must be... this issue is going to break up this family. I'm sure it has already done that already, because right now they are in hiding. So they are in hiding from their family, which is very sad, which is very sad. And their father is not here. He passed away. And John is the one who must handle all this. It's, money and fame is not worth it. You don't want to sacrifice your family because of that. It's not worth it. But this is also what happens, right? They have all this empire, quote unquote, the Christian network, but it's all built on bad theology, bad doctrine. You have bad theology, bad doctrine, all that is going to show up in the people's lifestyle. And hence, this is what we are witnessing right now.
Yes, absolutely. There is a connection between what people say they believe or the convictions they have and how those things are fleshed out in their lives. And bad theology, a love of money, which is clearly being displayed here, where it's you don't want to part with these earthly possessions, and you would rather hang on to this. Like, this is where you kind of wonder, like, do you guys really know Christ? This, I have to honestly say, like, do you really know Christ, and do you really believe in the gift of eternal life, and that what we will have as believers after this world is so much greater. It's so much greater. I mean, Paul says, the suffering he was going through was preparing for him an eternal weight of glory, right? Like, he didn't even deem what he was going through down here, difficulties, worth even like being so worked up about because of what was coming, right? And so if you really believe in eternity, and you believe that we have a home and an eternity waiting for us with Christ, with the Lord, right? If you really believe these things, why would you be clinging to an earthly empire that is just going to crumble like every other empire at some point? And even if it goes on, it's not worth you losing or you sacrificing, what God has promised to those who love him in order to cling to it. Like, it makes no sense to me. It makes no sense. Like, I have to question, like, if you really know Christ, if you're willing to do that and sacrifice your own grandchildren
for money. Yeah. And plus, what profits a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? In fact, if this is a Christian network, right? These are believers, these are Christian. Purge the evil among you. So if you're doing things that honor Christ, you're not going to lose anything. If anything, the Lord is going to even bless you even more. And that's going to send a message to all other people within the network or other people who are in the same business like you. Like, you know what? At this network, they do not tolerate this particular nonsense. If they are willing to expose, they are willing to report this within their own family members, what more somebody who's just a stranger working at their Daystar, at their workplace? Okay, so these are the things that we need to be faithful even in our workplaces. This is when we shine the light of Christ, because people are going to see they do their business with integrity. These people, they do honor Christ in their dealings. And then Pete would have known, you know what? There's no way I'm going to survive in this place. I better get my act together. Confess or face the consequences. That's it. So it's unfortunate. And in fact, if they had done it back then and then in 2024, they would have just handled this within the family situation, go to the police and everything. Maybe most of the people wouldn't have known about it. But now, everybody, I'm sure people are already out there investigating. So let's unmask who Pete is. And then there'll be even more stories after that. It's
going to come out. I mean, whatever's done in the dark will come to light. And in this situation, it's unavoidable. Yeah. I'm actually even... it bothers me that there's so many pictures and everything of the child, the daughter, online and everything. And obviously, we know that it's her. So it bothers me for her own sake that her image is out there and we know who it is, and that we don't know who this idiot is.
The idiot is. If anything, we need to be knowing the idiot.
We need to know who this fool is, and he should be out there. We shouldn't be seeing images of this child who did nothing wrong being plastered all over the internet. This is the dude we need to be seeing.
Also, this guy, you are on a family trip, right? You're on a family trip. Everybody is there. So if this guy was so comfortable to find a way to sneak to be doing this, can you imagine the thing this guy is willing to do?
That's how it is when people have these kind of inclinations. They do stuff that doesn't. It's stuff that doesn't make sense to anybody else. Of course, the whole thing doesn't make sense, but even your actions, the level of how irrational these folks are because of their sick desires it's very very disturbing.
Very disturbing.
So let's move on to actually show this video here. It's not very long, but this is the video of Jonathan walking into a meeting and being told that if he doesn't sign this NDA, he's going to lose his position. Okay, so let me bring that up for you right now, and let's check that out.
At your mother's request, we called you back in here to talk to you, and we'd give you 24 hours from the time we signed this. That's roughly 2:30 to 3 o'clock tomorrow. If you can sign that, come back in to Arnold's office, sign the piece of paper, okay? Read it, do you comfortable with it, and then sign the piece of paper tomorrow. You have until basically, I say 3 o'clock. That's 24 hours from the time that we sign it. If you do not do that, then you are removing yourself from the board and removing yourself from your vice president position, and you are then an employee. You're still an employee. That's where we are. Now, technically, we had to pass a motion to do that because technically you were gone. You had already removed yourself from the board.
You dismissed me.
Well, because you did not do it. Technically, you removed yourself from the board.
I didn't remove
Technically,
myself.
you removed
You
yourself
dismissed
from
me.
vice president. At her request, we passed a motion to give you 24 hours to reconsider. Before you get your letter from Daystar telling you that's what the situation is. Now, you with me? You understand?
I understand.
So until 3 o'clock tomorrow, you have to go home, pray, talk, do whatever you want to, then come back into Arnold's office and read that until you're comfortable to sign it or not sign it.
Okay.
And if you sign it, then we are bound, you're bound by it just like the rest of us. If you don't sign it, you have removed yourself from the board and removed yourself from the officer of Daystar.
I wouldn't have removed myself. That would be her decision.
That's the
No,
effect of
that's
not
yours.
signing.
That's the effect of you not signing it. You're doing it.
What he said is this board didn't remove you. Your decision not to sign this is what's going to remove you.
Man, so notice how now when you have corrupt leadership at the top, that just goes right through the whole organization. Okay, so organizations will adopt the personality or the tendencies of leadership, and this is no different. So you have these Daystar here where they are, strong arming this guy basically to sign this NDA. Jonathan is basically being told, like, this is kind of like the Godfather stuff where it's like, we're making you an offer you can't refuse. That's basically what it is. I'm going to give you an offer you cannot refuse. And this is what it is. So if you refuse this, you see the ramifications of it. And then it's somehow done in a way that makes it look like if he doesn't do it, that it was his fault. You see, that you didn't sign it. So you forced our hand. You made this happen to where you lost, you removed yourself if you didn't sign it. So it's like the whole thing is like, wow, like what option did the guy really have at this point, when you're presenting it to him like that? I mean, this is some mob stuff, man. This is some mob stuff.
Yeah. But to be fair, most companies, they'll make people sign an NDA. So Jonathan, he refused to sign an NDA, so that equals him losing his job. But to me, my question is to Jonathan, why were you still clinging to be a Daystar? These people have proven to you that they're not interested in investigating the issues that happened with your child, okay? So now they're giving you this NDA. Obviously, he refused to sign. As a result, he lost his job. Why did he have to wait for them to offer him to sign an NDA in order for him to leave Daystar? So if they had not presented this NDA, would have Jonathan quit Daystar? I very much doubt it. So you were still there, working there, getting a paycheck there, even though these people were not willing to support you, the situation with your child. So he did good not to sign an NDA. That way he'll be able to speak freely. So anybody who works at Daystar, I'm sure right now, they've made people sign the NDA. So usually, yes, there's a place for people to sign an NDA, but to me, it's always like, okay, if you want people to sign NDA, you want to shush them, all right? So which means there's something that you're doing that's so shady, you don't want to come out to the public. So therefore, they have to sign this NDA. But this company is owned by his own mother. So his own mother, he'll be like, no, son, you better sign here. If not, you're out. So very shady business going on at Daystar.
It's crazy, man. It's like... Yeah, I mean, I just don't see the Christ in any of this. I don't see the Christ in any of this.
They're protecting
at all.
their assets. That's what they're doing.
And just by looking at so here's the thing. It's like this sort of tendency to cover things up doesn't just start in a vacuum. Okay, this kind of stuff where people feel like they need to cover things up does not start in a vacuum. How it is these things are developed, okay? The way people work is done over time. And one of the things that helps us to actually understand the mindset of these folks, right, the Lambs, in particular Marcus and Joni, is how the issue was handled when it came out that Marcus had had an affair. Okay? The way they handled that situation, and we're going to show a clip shortly here, but the way they handled that situation was that they came out only at the point where it became a detriment to them, that the people were trying to extort them with the information, just to say that, okay, if you don't give us a certain amount of money, then we're going to tell everybody what happened. Only at that point did they actually come forth. And yet this is supposed to be a ministry. So you think if this is a ministry and you're supposed to be transparent, not only should they have, sat down and even taken a sabbatical to work through these things and be willing to not be on the TV program so that they can repair their marriage, but they should have actually told people that, okay, so this is what happened. This is what happened, and we're dealing with this. Because there's people who are faithfully giving to this ministry, but they try to bury their own things that were going on behind the scenes in order to preserve their, empire. And so they were willing to do it then. So what more when now, okay, so if you're willing to put aside your own things and just bury things under a box, then if you feel like your children are threatening your ministry, you are going to easily be feeling like, okay, you know what? We were willing to do what was necessary, so you kids also better be willing to do what was necessary and cover this up. You see what I mean? So that's the point I'm getting at in all of this, that these things don't just start from nowhere.
Yeah.
Like if you have a heart to be covering up deceitful things and be doing it in order to protect your empire, your ministry, your so-called ministry, you're going to keep doing that, man. You're going to keep doing that.
And I think Jonathan knew what he was dealing with because he went there armed with to record himself. So, he did that on purpose. So I'm like, okay, so what made you walk in with an intention of recording the conversation that you are going to have? So I think he knew what was coming down the pipe.
Man, it's this whole thing is it's just sickening. Let's go ahead and play a little bit of this video. So this is from Mark. Okay, so I will do whatever is right to heal the hurt and to blah, blah, blah after I've been threatened.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
After I've been threatened with this $7 million extortion scheme, that's when I'm going to do what is right to make, everything right. And I'll do all these things and blah, 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 blah. I mean, this is, listen, man, like the integrity of Marcus and Joni Lamb at this point to me is like non-existent. There's no integrity with these folks whatsoever.
No, there's none. This guy came forward because somebody had threatened him. If that person did not threaten him, he would not have come forward. He would have just pretended as if nothing happened. But because there was a dollar sign attached to threatening his empire, I'm sure if his business, he could have afforded to pay that $7 million. But it looks like this guy was not willing under any circumstances, anybody messing around with his dollars. Okay? He decided, you know what? If I'm going to lose my wife, so be it. We are going to come forward. And Joni, okay, she stood by her man.
Yeah, she got on board with it.
She stood by her man.
She got on board with it. And, not to make light of the situation that okay, these things, there's infidelity is a terrible thing, wrecks marriages. By God's grace, there is room for forgiveness and restoration and for reconciliation. So we celebrate when people are able to work through those things.
Yes, absolutely.
We lament the fact that they happen, but we celebrate when people are able to work through those things.
Yes.
And it's a testament of, in most cases, it's a testament of, God's goodness working and His grace in their lives.
Yes.
But in this incident, because of the character of the folks, it's hard to see that as just purely something that is within them, causing them to be, okay, let me, like the wife really out of the goodness of her heart, simply willing to forgive him.
Yes.
When this is only coming out now, and they're only talking about it when there's money involved.
Yes.
And so it seems as though what's prompting her to be so forgiving, okay, is to say, I need to also do what I play my part in preserving
Yes,
what we
dynasty.
have. Yes,
Exactly. Like,
you
yeah,
see?
if I leave this guy, this story is gonna blow out.
Yes.
All these other things are gonna happen.
We lose everything.
Am I willing to lose everything? Should I leave this? No. So I'm gonna stand by my man. We're gonna take care of business. So if you're noticing, like, this is a pattern that this family has. They do have instinctively, they want to protect the brand up until it's no longer good for them one way or the other. Then
Right.
they'll just sort of like, branch off. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, even look at the Jonathan situation. Okay, you're no longer taking a paycheck from these guys. Okay, now I'm just going to blow it all out as I'm going out the door. So, if you're doing things that are shady, sooner or later, things are going to come out to light. Sooner or later, they're going to come out to light. And Joni is at every stage, okay? The matriarch of the family.
She's there. She's there. Her fingerprint is
step of the way.
over everything. And then also, this almost kind of makes, as we talk about how we're going to get into how she's got married to Doug Weiss and how that was a messy situation in and of itself. But this almost kind of shows how maybe there was a sense of where when Marcus was gone now, she was very free to move on quite quickly. And
take care of business.
And with, somebody who was also questionable in the way that he left his wife in order to be with her. So there's some improper stuff that happened even with her, subsequent marriage. But let's just watch a little bit more of this clip here. All right. So, I mean, that's pretty much enough of that. But I mean, we're just seeing him talk about things as though, okay, like, no, he was repentant. He sounds very contrite and repentant of everything. And I'm sure to some degree he was. But again, it's like all of this. Now we're on Dr. Phil. Now we're doing all this stuff because you were getting extorted. That's why you did this whole tour of trying to clean things up. That's literally why this happened. If those people never said anything, we never would have heard a peep out of this family. And it's not like they owe anybody an explanation. Like if things happen behind the scenes, they may owe their church an explanation. Pastors and everybody should know about it. But as a ministry, they owed the people who faithfully donate to this ministry an explanation, which never came, only came at the threat of exposure.
Not only that, remember, these guys are Christians, right? They are running a Christian network.
Supposedly.
Why do people go to Phil? Why do people go to Oprah? It's for damage control. It's for PR. Right. That's why they're going to go and sit on Oprah's couch or on Dr. Phil. To my knowledge, Dr. Phil is not a Christian. So why are you going to Dr. Phil? You guys, you have your own network. Why don't you go on your network and then repent before your audience and say, this is what I was doing. Okay, I was cheating on my wife. I was wrong. I have repented. And now we are standing together as husband and wife. But no, they had to go to Dr. Phil, right? To, patch up their image and everything. So all these things are very calculative. No, man. They were all about the brand. The brand, the brand, the brand. That's what it's about.
Terrible, terrible stuff. Let's take a moment here while we kind of digest all of this madness here. Shout out to everybody in the chats. We appreciate you so much for watching. This is just fantastic that you decided to join us this evening. Could have watched anything else, so we're grateful for your viewership.
Thank you guys for being here.
There's just a lot of comments here, difficult to get through, but we will, just read through a few here. So we have Deanne Newton.
Good to see you, Deanne.
We need to see that the devil is all over this to destroy the ministry and this family. We need to pray and lift them up in prayer. Yeah, I mean, we absolutely need to pray. We want to sincerely be, praying about this situation for this family, right? Because it is deeply, deeply troubling. Deeply troubling. Brenda, shout out to Brenda. She said, that is my question. I'm sorry, but that situation calls for authorities to be involved.
Yes.
Repentance is secondary to the safety of your child. God has set up the authorities to take care of that. Yes, absolutely. There's a purpose why the civil government is there. There's a purpose while the civil authorities are there.
Yes.
And they are actually, God's servants in that situation. You know?
Absolutely. Yes.
Rosemary Morales says, did Jonathan or his wife take the daughter to the doctor to confirm the assault? I'm not hearing this important question. Yeah, Rose, this is the problem. This seems to have taken, it was a long and winding road before any authorities were told.
Involved.
And that, I think, is the greatest failure of on the parental side, because now it's just impossible to do what was right.
Yes.
For that to have taken place.
Yeah. So everything that's being reported, by the time they went to the authorities, it was almost like 4 years later. So when these things happen, you go to the authorities immediately so they can keep that data, so they can do that investigation. You know how these things work. So it's very, very sad. Yeah. Deborah,
thank you so much,
for the super
Deborah.
chat.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Yes.
Appreciate you so much. Thank you so much.
All right, Susie Q, BB Squad member.
Susie Q.
Thank you. Good to see you, sister. Holding it down there. I see you.
Yes, thank you, Susie Q. Thank you. Shout out to all of our great mods. Susie Q is like the MVP. Thank you so much to everybody. So let's go ahead and actually look at. So there are some pictures here of Susie Lamb. Okay, let's just go to her Instagram, because she had been kind of hinting at stuff, and it seems that some of the messages were even a little cryptic and all of this as things were going on before the bombshell dropped. Okay, so let's just go to her IG for a second here. It's very interesting. So the first image is this one that we'll share. So this is the first image. And what is this image of? A lioness. A lioness and her cub. So a lioness is all bloodied from battle after protecting her cub. And this is her. So this is an image that gravitated towards her so much, that she gravitated towards so much, that she posted on her Instagram, obviously with some captions as well. But this is her mindset right now, is that she is now a lioness protecting her cub. It's a powerful image. It speaks volumes. Then there's also something from a podcast, I believe, that is, I don't know which one it is, but it says Lamb Podcast on it. It may be one that they're involved in.
Yeah, because both of them do have a podcast. Jonathan and Susie, they have their own YouTube podcast.
Yeah, but the person hosting it seems to be a different individual. So this was the video we watched earlier. Okay. So they shared that on the page. Now, this is Susie with the child here at a very young age here. So again, this is her showing her love and everything for her daughter. I'll bring up the caption. It says, it's a little small. Okay, here we go. Growing is in the breaking and the rebuilding. So thankful I was raised by my mom, who is a lioness who would die for her kids, and she raised me to do the same for mine. God gave me the best husband who truly loves me like Christ loves the church. Over the past decade of my life, I learned that there are people who don't know what love is. Wow. They lie like it's the truth. Love is a weapon they use on naive people to manipulate. Words like I love you are like drinking poison to confuse, and subdue. It took many painful years and constant aching life lessons to learn this and accept it. Words are extremely important to me, so this is why I went around this mountain of confusion and deception for so long instead of believing the repeated actions I kept choosing the words because it was easier. Then one day, God said, enough. Once you see this dark side, you can't unsee it. So then they will silence you because they can no longer control and fool you. So before you can expose them, expect the worst slander campaign. All this is not for the faint of heart, and it's almost taken me out too, dying to a lifelong reputation of simplicity and childlike happiness, to anxiety and depression. But in our weakness, he is strong, and he has healed and revived me. He is bringing the truth to life. So these are her thoughts and reflections here. This is a tough situation. I mean, this is obviously heartbreaking for them, difficult in so many ways. And when things like this go public, it's the attention. Like, some people don't even go public with stuff simply because they want to avoid the attention stuff.
Yeah.
And this is, they're going to receive, I mean, there's millions of people now who know this story, and especially in the Christian world, this is talked about. Let me bring this up real quick.
Said, don't ever talk about this again. And I've seen so many cases where large congregations and ministries, out of fear of the implications financially, because when your leader's the moneymaker, he's the charisma guy, he's your CEO is your top fundraiser. If he is exposed in a sexual scandal and has to step down, well, then that affects the whole ministry. And they're thinking it affects people's jobs. So you end up, instead of dealing with the perpetrator, you blame the victim. Are you really going to expose such and such, knowing how many people he helps, knowing how this ministry is helping people? Do you realize that by your being selfish and exposing him for abusing you, it's like being victimized a second time? But when she went to the pastor and told him,
yeah, wow. So she's posting that over here, right? Wow. Yep. You're going to the place where you're supposed to be safe. You're going to the pastors to tell them, and then again, you're being shut down. That's what happens in some churches when these things happen. And in this case, this is somebody running to the parental figure and then being victimized again, in that you are being shut down. You're being shut down. You're being told that you're, causing trouble, as it were. Terrible.
Yeah. So it looks like. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll play this one. It's obviously these are short clips. Mm-hmm. So this is the same guy again.
No brainer. If you love the Lord, if you're in ministry for the right reason. But again, oftentimes people are not building the kingdom of God. They're building their own kingdoms, and anything that gets in the way of that is fair game. That's not the heart of God. That's not Jesus' leadership. This is a thing that he spent 3 years. I mean, if you look at his ministry to the disciples, the one theme that he taught over and over again was, be a servant. Be a servant. You want to be great? Be a servant. And, should we call down fire from heaven? No, don't call down fire from heaven. Be a servant. And that should be our message. Humility is to consider others better than ourselves. That's what Paul says in Philippians chapter 2. Every pastor needs to wake up in the morning and remember, my job is to consider the people in my congregation as better than me. But wait a minute, Pastor, you've written books and you're on TV and people come to you and they want you. Okay, great. But consider those people better than yourselves. It's something that I do as a practice. It is a no-brainer.
All right, yeah. So she shares quite a few of these short clips, and it's the same gentleman talking again. I don't know, Lamb podcast. This. So I don't want to play stuff that has her daughter and stuff in there at all. But yes, generally, this is her Instagram sharing various thoughts, and there's messages on there showing her like a build up to this moment. And there's a lot of this talk of people not doing right. And in that long post that we read earlier, the one where she's holding the child, it's this thing where people have used the word love as a weapon. It's actually poison when they use it. So there's a great distrust, a great disappointment that she and her husband are dealing with right now. And it is on account of being betrayed by their own family.
Yeah, so yeah, I see over there, Susie, you're saying that Susie also had a situation at Daystar, and then she reported the situation to Joni, and Joni covered it up. So they do have a bad tradition with this Daystar family, the dynasty, of covering things up over and over again. So if these guys are willing to cover up things that involve their loved ones, their family members, right? Their daughter-in-law, their grandchild, what more somebody who is just a stranger who is not related to them? So clearly they are more concerned in protecting the brand instead of the truth, instead of purging the evil amongst the organization, doing something else, right? But to them, it's all about Daystar, because they're looking at it. To them, it's just money, right? It's money that's coming in. Number one, Christian network, I think maybe next to TBN, or they have all these big guys. Joe Austin, his ministry is on Daystar. Robert Morris was on Daystar. TD Jakes
who's
is on
who.
Daystar. The who's, right? Of
Yeah.
these, naming it and claiming it. These people who have these big ministries are on Daystar. So anything that threatens that, John is not going to have it. Mark has proved that already. So this is what we're witnessing.
Well, I mean, so this is to me new information. What here that Susie Q, our mod, faithful mod, shared with us. Our sister in the faith here shared with us. And let's just pull it up and take a brief look at this, because this is crazy, and this
Showing the pattern.
This is crazy. So
Cover up.
so exclusive, and this just came out today. This information just dropped today that Susie Lamb says she was pressured to hide her own assault. And then there's a picture there, of course, Joni and Susie there. Let's bring this up. This is, wow, I had not heard about this, and this is even worse now. So in January 2017, Susie Lamb, then Daystar TV co-host and daughter-in-law of Daystar founders Marcus and Joni Lamb, claims she was assaulted at Daystar by an unlicensed chiropractor her in-laws had hired. But when her husband, then director of operations Jonathan Lamb, told his parents about it, they buried the assault. Both Jonathan and Susie told the Royce Report in an exclusive interview. According to the couple, Marcus and Joni maintained a culture of secrecy and protection at the large Christian broadcasting network with more than 100 stations worldwide and an annual revenue of over $100 million. The couple say they submitted to this culture for more than a decade. But as the Royce Report reported yesterday, Jonathan and Susie have gone public with their experience at Daystar, specifically Marcus and Joni's alleged cover-up of their daughter's essay by a male family member. Susie did not talk about her own essay in our first interview, but over the weekend she told the Royce Report she wanted to stand with her daughter as a victim and talk about her assault too, which remains traumatizing. My goodness. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
This is.
Oh my gosh.
This is bad. Okay.
Wow.
The culture at Daystar is very, very bad.
Wow.
Susie experienced that, shared that with her husband, shared that with Joni, and they covered it up. So they proved to them that they have the culture of wanting to cover up things, right? Fine. Then the same situation happened with their daughter. These people ended up covering it up. So they had a data to see how these people operate. Why did they give them another 4 years of sitting on the story where they had a history? They had a history like, you know what? This happened to me. They didn't do anything. This has happened to my daughter. They're not doing anything. You know what, Jonathan, sweetheart? Let's get out of here. Let's get out of here. Get the help that we need. Get the help of our daughter we need. She just left. She was let go in July. The husband was let go on November 15 in 2024. So despite all these things, these people just proved to them that they were not good as far as handling this situation. They still stayed. They still got their paycheck from these guys. They guys, you don't have to stay in these situations. Come out, because nothing is going to change. They've proven that, they don't care. They've shown you that much. So this is the stuff that has come out. What more the stuff that we don't even know about? And these people were willing to cover up for an outsider chiropractor. So if they are willing to cover up for an outsider, they are willing to cover up to go over their own grandchild. I mean, it looks like these people know. As long as anything that threatens their money, they're not going to have it. They are definitely like the mafia. You know how the mafia is. You cross them, they are done with you. So what a shame, So hopefully they will stand by their principles. You know what I'm saying? Because they came out with a strong statement after the Robert Morris situation. So let's see what statement they're going to come out with this time around. Is Daystar going to come out with a strong statement, or are they just going to pretend as if nothing happened?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just dumbfounded that this is a new layer to this story that is, wow. So, yeah, I mean, as you said, there's clearly a culture there. Mm-hmm. There is a way that they do things, and this just seems to be the way Marcus and Joni built this establishment. I'm not even going to call it a ministry anymore. This organization was built on lies, built on, so think about this though. Think about this, is that this right here is coming out where this is Susie Lamb, okay? Susie Lamb, one of the children, talking about this, okay? And she herself withheld these things happening to her. Think about the people who are just employees there, okay? Think about the folks who are just employees there and how much stuff gets covered up. Because if they're willing to cover this up, I'm telling you, man, like, this is not just, we saw this with the Robert Morris situation, where once the story broke, where it was like, okay, there's one incident that happened from Gateway Church, right? We just thought, okay, there's one thing that's wrong. Then it became this one thing after another that was going wrong in Gateway. You see? So it's like, once these stories break, you find out there are more victims, more people who have been mistreated, more people who had to bury things under a rug, people who were probably themselves. So here's the thing. There are probably people who signed NDAs and took some money and settled some cases that we will never hear about. And I strongly believe that is likely to be the case, because that's what we see when these things go wrong, is that there is there's a bunch of bodies left behind in the wake of what has happened.
Yes, so I'm sure, because I don't think that was the first time they offered someone to sign an NDA. So which means they already have this in their back pocket. So this time around, they're like, you know what? Yes, this one is my son. It's time for him to sign the NDA. So trust and believe that the employees there, they already signed the NDA for sure. Because I doubt that was their first time they produced an NDA for somebody else to sign.
There's definitely, I would think so. I would think that there are people who have gone through stuff and things have been buried, and this is just what they do.
Yeah.
This is what they do at this place. I mean, this is unbelievable. It's just absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah, man.
Wow.
It's Daystar.
Wow. Let's see if there's a little bit more to this story here. So, here's another picture of them here. This is in March 2023, so last year. So, according to Jonathan and Susie, the chiropractor had lost his license. What? Because of an alleged assault on a minor. Man, I can't even hold up. So they brought a person who was already compromised into Daystar somebody who had lost his license for doing some trash before. They bring this guy in, and he does something he's not supposed to do to Susie, and then they try to sweep that under the rug. Okay, let me just read the rest of this, and I'll come back on the main screen. So, but Marcus and Joni believed the chiropractor had come to Christ and was a changed man. So they invited him to Daystar to work on the family in the family green room, Jonathan and Susie said. The green room is a lounge for on-air performers where they go when they're not in studio. So this must be a picture of this guy right here. The chiropractor allegedly assaulted Susie Lamb poses with his daughter at the Daystar TV Christmas party. My goodness. My goodness. And you see how these people have no fear of invoking the name of God in what they do when they cover up stuff. Like actually saying that this guy, no, he's a changed man. He's come to Christ. This is a guy who's come to Christ. Listen, even if somebody, let's say he really did come to Christ. Even if somebody has come to Christ, if they have had a past of doing certain things, then there's a way that you do not bring them into spaces that could either tempt that person or make somebody else feel uncomfortable when the information comes out, even if nothing happens. But if the information comes out that, hey, wait a minute, so that chiropractor, this guy was, he did some stuff in the past, and y'all brought him here, even if nothing happened. Like, you have to avoid these kind of situations.
Yeah. And not only that, this chiropractor had the audacity to do this to the daughter-in-law. Remember, Susie, like, this is the...
right.
You know what I mean? Like, they own this Daystar, right? It's owned by her husband, her father-in-law, and her mother-in-law. So this chiropractor, it's not like didn't know who Susie was. So then he is having this audacity to be doing at Daystar, not even outside, like literally at the network itself.
Yeah.
Like, what are we talking about here? And why are they attracting these people who think they can just come in at Daystar and behave like this? Like, oh my gosh.
This place is like a magnet for just heinous things to be happening and be covered up. Wow.
No, man.
All right, so let me just read a little bit more of this and we'll move along. So for a couple years, everything went fine, Susie said, and the man worked on her in the green room without incident. So he seemed to be okay, but like I said, right? Shouldn't have brought him there in the first place. But then he started becoming more belligerent. And one day, she said, he seemed drunk as he was working on her. Joni's assistant was normally in the room with the chiropractor when he was seeing patients, but Susie said that for about 5 minutes, the assistant left because she had to use the bathroom. During the time she was gone, Susie said the man violently assaulted. The assault was not R, but left her reeling in pain. My goodness. As soon as the chiropractor left the building, Susie called Jonathan and told him what had happened. Jonathan said his blood was boiling and immediately called Marcus and Joni, who were out of town, to report what happened. Jonathan said Marcus told Jonathan he'd handle it and instructed Jonathan not to talk about it. Instructed him not to talk about it. Man, listen.
I mean, Jonathan, this is your wife. You're no longer under your mommy and daddy, okay? You are responsible to protect your wife. Why are you taking orders from your mommy and daddy how to handle your own wife? You see? Because to me, I'm like, this is the second time that Jonathan has found himself in this situation. The situation with the wife, the situation with the daughter, you're still taking orders from your mommy and your daddy, how he's running his household. Like, what are we doing here? Okay? Yes, you work for Daystar. They are paying you. This is the problem. Like, okay, so now they feel like, they own you. They're dangling. One day you're going to be the president. One day you're going to be in charge of Daystar. So you just have to do everything that mommy and daddy are saying. Like, no, you are to honor your parents, okay? You don't have to be rude to your parents. You're to honor them. But when they are asking you to do something that is evil, you are under no obligation to honor that. You are responsible for your family. You are responsible for your wife. You are responsible for your daughter. So these people are telling you to keep silence over something that is evil. You're not supposed to honor that. So Jonathan, as a father, he failed. As a husband, he failed. So it's not like these things were happening and Jonathan didn't know about it. He heard about it. What did he do about it? He's coming out now, okay, 4 years later, fine. We appreciate him coming out now. But at that point, surely, you know what you'd be like, you know what? This environment is not good for my wife, it's not good for my family. We have to get out of here. That's it. He could have done that. But they all, for whatever the reason, they stayed. And yes, I'm telling you, you know what I mean? The money, these people, whatever the status, all these things, you have a show, you're on Daystar, all this, the trappings of what Daystar is offering, I'm sure that was very hard to resist. But, if you are for your family, you need to be willing to let those things go, especially those material things go. No, don't tell your mom. Why is your mommy telling you, no, we don't say anything about it? They're actually giving orders. No, don't let them do that to you, Jonathan.
Man, listen, this thing is, this story has just got layers and layers and layers. If you had to do a docuseries on this, it would be hours and hours, because we're only scratching the surface on this thing. There is, if whoever sits down, whatever information that Julie Royce has on this, because she's bringing this out. I guess she just said she only heard this over the weekend. So imagine the stories that haven't been told. Like I said, stories of other people, stories of things, other cover-ups that have occurred that are yet to be revealed. There's just going to be more and more stuff coming out of this situation. I just don't think this is it. And you're very right as far as we now have to just wonder, man, what was going through Jonathan's mind as far as not taking action in certain situations immediately. Blood boiling is one thing in this case, but I don't know. I might have had to be in jail or something. You know what I mean? This is, wow. Wow. Wow.
Yeah, so it's this is not good. Okay, this is not good. Because remember, the child, right? The child doesn't know. All she's going to know, I told my mommy, I told my daddy. From what she's experiencing, she's just we still had to go to these family gatherings. I still had to be in the presence of somebody who did this to me, right? Those are the things that the child is going to be remembering. And no wonder that child eventually ended up shutting down, besides what the grandmother downloaded in her brain as a little child, right? Because to her, just okay, the most people who are supposed to protect me, they are the same ones who are also bringing me in the presence of these people who are evil. And what is the child supposed to be thinking? So, so let's hope that, they definitely, both of them, this entire family needs solid counseling and ongoing, because those are, she's definitely traumatized for sure. So she definitely needs help. Plus, remember, all these things are what? They're on a public domain, right? So she's going to go to school. She's growing up. She'll be able to see all these things. So these things is just not going to go away. It's just going to be part of her life, part of her family. It's very, very sad. That's not what she signed up for, but this is the family that she's part of. It's very, very unfortunate. So, Jonathan, man, if you had taken action right there and then, who knows what would have happened, right? Removing yourself from being surrounded by these evil people. And and then notice the way Joni and Marcus are, it's if something happens, all they have to do is just tell Jonathan, don't do anything about it. And they know Jonathan is not going to do anything about it. And they just carry on as if nothing happened. What?
Yeah. I'm sure he's had to wrestle with his own failures throughout this process as well, and the ways that he's dropped the ball. You know how they say a fish doesn't know it's wet, it's in water, right? That's just what it is. And I think to some degree, these guys who've grown up in these sort of settings, they don't even know to some degree how things are supposed to be handled. They don't know what's right, what's wrong. If you have that level of affection and devotion and loyalty to the family, I mean, again, like I said, it's like the mob.
Oh, it's not an easy
it's
thing
like
for
the
sure.
mob. You know, like you're in a situation where it's like, no, well, like, listen, we do, like, there's bad things happening, but I just can't be the one to make this thing collapse. Like, I can't be the one. I'm gonna bring harm upon my family. And then probably, let's be honest, there's a sense in where he may be thinking of his own upkeep and, you know, taking care of his family as well.
For sure.
And he's thinking to himself, like, okay, so how do I do this? And I'm not saying that's right. I'm definitely not saying that is right. But these are the things that are on his mind. These are some of the stuff that's on his mind.
Plus,
you know,
he knew he was the one who was going to take over. So you, at that point, you're just maybe counting the days. You know what? Soon I'm going to be the guy in charge. I'm going to do the cleanup once I become the president. Because who knows what he was thinking, right?
Wow.
It's not easy to walk away from such things, you know?
All right, let's just see the rest of this thing. So in the meantime, Susie said it was all she could do to hold herself together, knowing that the chiropractor knew where she lived and used to joke that he knew how to snap someone's neck in seconds. The next day, as Susie prepared to fill in for Marcus and Joni on their show, her body revolted and she threw up in the bathroom. But Susie said she also knew what was expected of her, so she soldiered on and hosted her show anyway. Terrible. We need to protect Daystar, Susie recalled Joni telling her, and I want to protect you, so don't say a word about it to anybody. This woman needs to be in jail now, too. This Joni lady, she needs to
Joni,
be
she's
in
a
jail.
Jezebel, guys.
She needs
I'm
to
sorry.
be in jail. Susie says she dutifully obeyed what her mother-in-law told her and eventually got over it and forgot it happened. So even Susie was in some sort of broken way, the way she was operating. Like these folks weren't operating in a normal mindset and functioning the way you're supposed to function amongst other adults in a safe setting. They just weren't doing that. And this tells me that there was other things. There must have been ways in which, whether it was the finances or whatever it was, stuff was dangled around, because this is just showing you, it's like, you know, like battered wife syndrome. Like you're showing people they just don't process things properly. You know,
because
they
like,
don't
it looks
process
like
things
Joni
properly.
had full control of what was happening in these people's lives, right? She'll just say, no, you know, we gotta, don't say anything. We gotta protect Daystar. It's time for you to do a show. And that's it. She'll just, get right on it, right? You're gonna be on the show. Jonathan is also getting the order. So even Jonathan and Susie, even them two also, the way they were handled by Daystar, I think it was not proper. It was not proper. I agree with you. There were other things outside these circumstances that made them paralyzed not to go outside Daystar, but just to keep their heads down and just to stay. So it had to be to this point where she no longer works there, he no longer works there. So now they have, the confidence to be able to sort of like out Daystar. Yeah, Joni, man. I mean, like, this is some Jezebel stuff, man. This is some Jezebel
Some wicked
stuff.
witch of the West stuff, man. So I'm telling you. So,
Yeah.
But in January of this year, Susie said the trauma of the assault returned and she started to wake up panicking and sweating. What especially scared her, she said, was the way Joni had gotten her to bury the assault. Susie said she couldn't help wondering if that was what Joni had done to her 5-year-old daughter when Joni had met with the girl to talk about her situation. Again, very loving photos here and everything, but these things, this should also remind you, y'all, when you see these pictures of people smiling and everything looks good, nobody's life is always like this, okay? And then when there's stuff like this going on, people might be smiling even more just to make themselves, just to survive. You actually lie to yourself that everything is good. As we reported earlier, in November 2020, Susie's daughter disclosed to her, yes, the SA situation. I'm just trying to kind of get the highlights here. Daystar also responded to the allegations concerning Susie and said Joni Lamb is aware of an incident in 2017 that Susie Lamb raised involving a chiropractor. Susie had a long history of requesting a chiropractor at issue to work on her, both at Daystar and at her home. When Susie was treated at Daystar, a witness was always present as required by Marcus. In 2017, Susie Lamb reported to Marcus and Joni that the chiropractor inappropriately touched her. The word was never used, and nothing that would constitute that was mentioned by Susie. The witness in the room at the time of the alleged incident denied that anything inappropriate occurred. Nonetheless, Marcus immediately released the chiropractor. No one paid off the chiropractor as alleged in your email. Wow, y'all. So these folks have a lot going on. Let's jump over to, we're definitely going to keep reporting on this so look out for more information on that. I've literally just been made aware of this story. So shout out again to Susie Q for sharing that with us in the chats there.
Yeah.
We have to dive deeper into this and follow this story, and we'll do so. And I believe this is just the tip of the iceberg. I truly do. Yeah. Jumping to, Joni is like, the common denominator in all of this, right? She's the common denominator.
But before you go over there, darling.
Sure.
This chiropractor died in 2021.
The chiropractor?
Yes.
Okay.
So if you scroll up, that's where it's shown. So now, this chiropractor has gotten away with it because no police report, nothing, right? So this is also, we got to pray for these people so they shouldn't walk away from the faith, but they should be strengthened in the faith, stay in the faith. So he got away with it in this lifetime, right? But there will be a day of the final judgment that nobody is going to get away with it. They might get away with it in this life, but not in the next. So, he died in 2021, so he never had to answer for his misdeeds, but... he died in 2021. He met the Lord. So he already gave his account.
Oh yeah, he met the Lord. So he's dealing with whatever he needs to deal with right now. He's dealing with that right now. Man, so many layers to this story. I wish we had more time to really dig into that. Wow. So back to what I was saying about Joni and her impropriety. The thing that we mentioned earlier briefly was how she got remarried in 2023, and the guy that she got married to, Doug Weiss, I would say is probably complicit now. He's joined this movement of just moving things out, and I don't know what position he has now in the company, but if he had a problem with how Jonathan and Susie were being treated, then he would have said something or probably wouldn't have married Joni in the first place. So he's probably rolling along with it. Now, this guy was married and
for 30 years.
30 years, and he's supposed to be a marriage and a sex therapist, something like that. But this guy left his wife. So you got to wonder how good his teaching is. He left his wife, and there really, when you look at the reports, there's no clear reason as to why he left her. Mm-hmm. And he left her and got married to Joni Lamb.
And they were family friends. Marcus and Joni Lamb.
Yes.
Marcus died, so Joni was free to marry.
Sure.
Only in the Lord.
Right.
But this guy was already married to his wife.
Right.
Why are you going to leave your wife after 30 years to go and marry? I'm like, Are you also trying to follow? Because you know where the Daystar money is at. Like
something was not clean.
Yeah.
So here's a clip of, and this is eerie watching this because you have Marcus Lamb and Joni and the guy that later married her, and they're sitting here in this conversation. So let's watch this.
In Tennessee. She says, we've been married for 26 years.
Wow.
We lost our son 2 years ago. And since the loss of the son, the husband has not been intimate if things were fine before then. What should I do?
Yeah, he's going to need to go to some bereavement counseling. He is stuck.
Have you heard that?
Oh, yeah,
before?
and it happens to women too, because the trauma.
So that's trauma from the loss of a child.
It's trauma from loss of a child, but he has reset. He's reset to mistrust anybody, anything, probably God himself, and he needs to heal that place to begin to trust God, trust himself.
So what should
trust
she
his
do?
wife.
Like what?
Suggested he go to counseling for bereavement.
All right, let me throw
group.
this in real quick. So this weekend at Gateway, where Joni and I and our family attend, Pastor Tim Ross was the speaker. And he told the story about his brother. They were only about 15 months apart and growing up, a lot of people, because the parents dressed them alike, thought they were twins. And his brother died at a young age, I think at like age of 20 or something. And Tim Ross said this. He said that for a long time, he could not be happy or laugh or enjoy things because he felt like that would be disrespectful to the memory of his brother. And it became so bad that Tim Ross contemplated suicide.
Yeah. No, that trauma reset him as well. And that not enjoying yourself or going back to routines that give you pleasure is one of the PTSD symptoms. And so.
All right, not to let this guy keep talking, but basically we're just trying to show you that this is the guy that she married, okay?
This guy left his wife of 30 years
Right.
to go marry Joni. After over here, like you're seeing Joni's with Marcus, you're doing this counseling and everything. And there's no, and they just say like he divorced his wife for personal reasons. Like,
Right.
like what is, you are a Christian, by the way.
And I mean, so, and look at the name of the place, a heart-to-heart counseling center. I'm sorry, like,
Yes.
don't go to this.
Dr.
I mean, what
Dagwise.
kind of counseling center is this where the dude himself, it seems to lack, good morals and is willing to just leave his wife? And I mean, unless there's stuff that we don't know, but still, I mean, it just.
Oh, and it happened so quick, by the way.
Listen, man. I mean, yes, people are free to. Joni was free to remarry.
Yes.
In this case, we don't know about this guy, but the whole way that happened as well seems super shady.
Yes.
And now that's the dude. Now he's in there. He's I guess Mr. Daystar 2.0 or something. I don't know what he is.
And there's a change.
Just a crazy mess. Trying to pull up
Everybody,
Joni's actual Instagram here and show you some of her photos with.
What was the
new
key
husband.
thing for
With hubby.
you in just allowing the Spirit of
Yeah.
God to flow through you and understanding it's not about you and your voice or what you look like or what
Okay.
you sound like?
Yeah, I think the key to it.
Okay, let me actually pause some of the stuff. Got music and stuff. I'll pull out of here for a second and pull up the picture. Okay, here we go. Here's one right here. So yeah, so here is
That's my logo right there.
So in honor to
Yeah.
attend AAFPI A1 Policy Gala went for America. That's the caption. But this is them. This says 6 days ago. Okay.
For real?
That's what this thing says. 6 days ago. So they're enjoying. Okay. They're enjoying in the midst of all this stuff going on, this turmoil, this stuff going on in the background. These guys are still living it up, going to events and doing all the things that they do, Yeah.
So
This is
the
life.
background there, that looks my logo to me.
I don't know where it is. It just said it's a gala somewhere, but yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
With Dr. Dagwise. Ooh, look at them, the lovebirds.
Lovebirds.
I tell you,
well,
your granddaughter is worried over there, and your son is like, this is not good.
Right.
It's not a good love.
Right.
Yeah.
Man. So that is them right there. Crazy. Yeah, let's check out some of the chats. Thanks again, y'all. Thank you so much, man, for y'all being there and hanging out with us tonight, going through this very difficult story. We absolutely appreciate every single one of y'all. Let me read some more of these comments here. So this one was shocking here. So Lady L said, Marcus died 3 months after declaring Joni would head up Daystar. So it was three months after that.
Later.
3 months after that. Wow.
I see you.
And then it was like, remember it was, during the pandemic. And of course, his enemies or people who don't like them were going hard, talking about how they were, anti-jab and all this stuff. And they had posted some material, but yet the guy ended up dying of the bug. And so that was a whole thing in and of itself. But, we don't, that's not really a thing so much. But it just shows you that they had people that disliked them enough to sort of say, okay, hey, but it's kind of like I told you so type of thing. Iron Ace, shout out to Iron Ace, said, he that covereth his sins shall not prosper.
Nope.
But whoso confesseth and forsaketh them shall have mercy.
Amen.
Happy is the man that feareth always, but he that hardeneth his, let me bring that up. He that hardeneth his heart shall fall into mischief. And what great mischief are we seeing these folks who clearly, if you want to talk about hardening your heart, right, to where it's like now, I just think like Joni Lamb is like numb now. Like these people are just numb where bad stuff happens and your mind goes into cover-up mode automatically.
Yeah.
It's not even like, oh, let me hear what happened. It's like, no, cover-up mode. The default setting is cover-up mode.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I think for her, you can see it just comes so natural. They were at the Daystar and it just said, don't talk about it. Get ready. It's time to do a show. It's just like, what are they doing? So I think, she was groomed just to be doing things herself too. And then this is the culture that they have. I bet you with this story that has come out right now, they've made sure everybody who works there has signed an NDA or else the door is open for you. Yeah. That's just how they're going to maintain right now their cover-ups.
Yeah. RJ says, seems Joni was relieved to be free from Marcus. That's why she moved on so fast. You wonder, did she ever really get over the affair and all that stuff? And then it's like, okay, so when he was gone, now it's like I'm free. You're free, and you've been given this the role as president. So you're free. You got the empire, and you don't have the dude anymore. Nobody's nobody to tell you anything. Yeah, very shady. Freedom Deep. It's very, very shady. Man. Yeah, this story is and it's heavy, man.
Because they already said that there's a lot of information that they've given out to the reporters. So clear some stuff is going to be coming out. Because I think to them, they know, okay, we have reported this to the authorities, but whatever happens with the authorities, we're just going to make sure that this story goes far and wide. Because there's just so much that the authorities can do. But if it's in the, if they give it to the reporters are just going to report. Whether somebody has been charged or not, the story is still going to be out there. The police, they cannot disclose any information if it's under investigation. So Pete has already lawyered up. So I'm sure he knows, like, you know what? I better lawyer up over here. And I'm sure with the Daystar, Joni and them, it's family dynamics. So it's very unfortunate going to the holidays, the Thanksgiving, the Christmas. So obviously it's going to be different.
No, even that stuff, the fact that all that was going on and this was like they were forced to be in these places. Deborah said, wait a minute, we need to feel sorry for Jonathan. What about his daughter? Who will feel sorry for her? Dang, wake up, people. Yeah, for sure. No, I'm with you. I think there's no we have to hold where the parents drop the ball. We have to hold them accountable, and I think that there's a lot of places where clearly looking at this whole situation, there was a lot of times where they dropped the ball. Yeah. They dropped the ball.
The daughter is innocent. The daughter is absolutely innocent.
Yeah.
The people who is supposed to help her failed her.
Different multiple levels.
Yeah, in different situations.
Multiple levels.
Yeah.
Grandparents, the parents themselves, and as we said earlier, it's this culture that they're in, this toxic world where you cover up stuff, I think blinded them and, they also have a lot to answer for. They do have this. There's some things they got to wrestle with. They really have to, wrestle with how they handle the situation.
Yeah. And plus, these are the people who you're supposed to trust, right? Your grandmother. What else do you expect your grandmother? Like, your grandmother is just going to be there for you, and that's not what happens.
That's what you
right?
hope, yeah.
The grandfather is out there, like, shutting everything down, and went to mommy and dad, and then you're still going to functions where this speech is also present. So there are so many things that happened along the way that from the mind of the child wouldn't understand that also the mother was under pressure. The father was also under pressure. These are the things that actually happened. So it's unfortunate. That's why we are saying, hopefully they are putting this this little girl with good counseling, because this is the same story that I did yesterday. This was the father, doing things to a 2-year-old, his own 2-year-old and his own 4-year-old.
You mean that's a different story?
Yeah, this is a different
story.
Something
that you dealt with,
right?
yes.
Okay. So I'm just saying that these things are actually happening. The most people who are supposed to be protecting are the ones who are violating. So it makes it so difficult for the victims. It's very unfortunate and very sad. Yeah. Good to see you, Marianne. Thank you for being here.
Nicole said, I believe God, Jesus Christ's will is for his people to come out of, God's will is for his people to come out of Babylon, and Hollyweird is a part of Babylon. Yes.
Yeah.
I think this world of the television broadcast world, sadly, it seems even the Christian, what is supposed to be the Christian part of that is, marred by greed and horrible things happening behind the scenes. And is this just part of having a broadcast network that these things happen? I don't think so. It shouldn't be the case. It's just the people's motives get revealed, because you got to remember, you're dealing with word of faith people. You're dealing with word of faith people who have already, your theology is telling you to get. Like, God is there for you to get stuff. You're not a Christian to enjoy God, right? To glorify God and enjoy him forever. That's not why you're a Christian. You're a Christian to get things from God. And so if you've been given this platform and you've built this empire, then surely God doesn't want you to not have it, right? In the busted mind of a word of faith person. So if that means we gotta bury some bodies, quote unquote, we're going to do that. If we got to hush some people, if we got to get some NDAs signed, if we got to do whatever, we're going to do it. So there's, from the start, the way these guys are wired, it almost kind of set them up for this kind of stuff to happen. Yeah. Especially when, you've built this empire.
Yes. Protect Daystar, protect the brand by any means necessary. That's their mentality. And if anybody gets in the way, just do whatever you got to do, so long as it gets out the way. Like, even the video that we watched when Jonathan was being presented to sign the NDA, they just told him, like, oh, you're signed or you're out of the door.
Yeah,
and you
even the lawyer was there. Even the lawyer was there. Like, so this is what's happening. It's just like, man, terrible stuff, man.
Yes.
Yeah, I like what RJ said here. May the Lord protect the children in every way. They have a son too, so he's impacted as well. Yes, and he's seeing all of this, man. And I think that's the real thing that we should be praying for. First and foremost is, the Lord would protect these children from any further trauma, and that even in the healing process, it would be done in a way that really restores them, builds them up. And we hope that they would, pray for them to have a sincere faith of their own in the Lord, even despite these things happening to them. Pray for that to be the outcome. It wouldn't be something that they later turn away in life because they were let down by their parents and everything, and deny the Lord. We pray for a better testimony for them, and that is something that we should be earnestly praying for, especially being in the spotlight as I said, there's pictures of them plastered everywhere. So I don't like that aspect of it. But that's how it is at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Be in prayer. And it's good even with what Susie and Jonathan testified. It looks like they're still holding on to the Lord, which is good. Because when these things happen, the tendency for people is just like, you know what? I'm just going to get out of here. That type of thing. So, yeah, pray that these people are going to get the help they need. Forgiveness is going to take place. People who are supposed to be accountable, they will be accountable. And people who are supposed to be protected, they are going to be protected. And the people who are supposed to be doing the protecting are going to do their duties and their responsibility, no matter what the material things might be promised to them. Whether they are promised or not, they're going to do what is right before the Lord. Because the scripture is clear, like if you're doing these things to the little one, like a millstone around your neck, right? And be thrown to the sea.
Better.
So we know, like, even the scripture does not play games with these things.
At all.
So, yeah.
At all. Mary Lou says something interesting here. She says, I see Joni so differently now, so bad. That comment just made me think about how when I first got saved and how it was like, everything that seems Christian is just good to you, right? And I remember I was just watching TBN, I was watching Daystar and watching programs, and it was just, you're just seeing this wonderful world of Christian television, and there's all this stuff. Of course, you don't know what's good and bad when you just get saved. You're just in love with everything that, bears the name of Christ. But I remember those days, man, and it's just like, wow, your eyes get open to, first of all, the teaching being off. And then now this is another layer where there's these horrible things happening behind the scenes. It's it just removes this veneer or this image of the shiny, pristine Christian ministries that some of the ministries that we've been seeing as we see them crumble and we see what's really been going on behind the scenes. So, yeah.
Yeah. So... yeah, man, this was, good reporting. We appreciate Julie Royce.
Yeah. I mean, Julie has her stuff as well. Seems to have access to grind with certain folks. We'll just leave that as it is. But when she does good reporting, we have to, salute her for that reporting. And at least they felt like they could go to somebody who they would be heard, who would hear them and do justice in the reporting. And she seems to have done that thus far. So we're, grateful for this coming out at this moment. So, his wife and children should have been the most important, even if that means being estranged from your rich and famous parents. Absolutely.
Yes,
absolutely.
Shara
Yeah.
Yep,
That was just
I
like,
agree with you.
Listen, man, there's a lot. There's a lot. There's a lot there. But we'll be back to report as the story unfolds. So look out for updates on the channel. Don't forget to subscribe to Berean Babes. Also subscribe to See Things Above TV. Any other things you have you wanted to mention?
No, thank you guys for being here. I do appreciate you. We have some new content coming out this week, so watch out. I'll have video tomorrow, okay? Tomorrow there'll be a video out. We'll be back here live Saturday evening. We have a guest for you guys. So show up on Saturday, okay? We have another live show for you guys. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, guys. As always, if then you have been raised with Christ, seek the things that are above where Christ is, seated at the right hand of God. Set your minds on things that are above, not on things that are on earth, all right? God bless y'all, and we will see y'all on the next one. Peace.